Okay, so get this. You know how we're diving into other dimensions by Michio Kushi and Edward Esco, right?
Yeah, published back in '92. Quite a fascinating read.
So Kushi, right off the bat, tells this wild story about being stuck at the Caracas airport with his wife.
Oh, I remember that.
And suddenly, over the loudspeaker, comes this announcement about UFOs. UFOs, can you believe it? Like they're being picked up on radar and everything?
Talk about grabbing your attention, right? Kushi knew how to set the stage.
Totally. It's like, what does this have to do with, well, other dimensions?
He was clever, though, using that anecdote to introduce this whole concept of macrobiotics.
Macrobiotics, huh? Now, I know a little about healthy eating and all.
Right, but Kushi saw it as more of a lens, a way to understand how everything's connected.
Okay, so it's deeper than just food.
Way deeper. It's like blending Eastern and Western thought, finding that balance, the yin and yang in every part of life.
So like looking at the universe with both sides of your brain.
Precisely. Logic and intuition. He said you need both to really get the mysteries out there. He wasn't afraid to go into those unconventional ideas, but he always tried to ground them in some sort of logic, some observation.
That makes sense, not just going off the deep end, right?
Exactly. And that approach leads him to some wild claims, like saying ancient texts are full of extraterrestrial encounters. We're talking the Bible, the Vedas, even the Kojiki.
Hold on, extraterrestrials in like the Bible?
Oh, yeah. He points to passages, for example, in the Dronaparva, which is from the Indian epic, the Mahabharata.
Vaguely rings a bell.
It talks about these gods flying around in Vimanas, which Kushi suggests could be ancient UFOs.
Okay, but is that like solid evidence or just him interpreting it that way?
That's where it gets interesting. Kushi was all about patterns, right? So he saw these old stories, often brushed off as myths, as potential clues.
Clues to what, exactly?
To a deeper understanding of our history of the universe.
So he wasn't saying those texts definitively prove aliens exist, but they could be interpreted through that lens.
Exactly. And he even pointed to the book of Genesis, chapter 6, I think it was.
Genesis, I'm drawing a blank.
It talks about sons of God marrying human women, having these giant offspring.
Okay, that does sound familiar.
And Kushi asks, could these sons of God have been, well, extraterrestrial?
That's a question that's been around forever, right?
And Kushi definitely adds fuel to that fire. But here's the thing, it wasn't just the Bible. He brought up Japanese legends, too, like Jinnu descending to Earth, Mount Takachiho, I think, bringing peace, sharing knowledge.
Jinnu, yeah, I think I remember that story.
It's a common theme, actually. Kushi connected it to other legends about, like, extraterrestrial knowledge being shared.
Like what?
The Japanese myth of Kogi Shuri bringing rice, some Native American stories about corn, even Demeter and Triptolemus in Greek mythology bringing wheat to humans.
So many stories, all with that same idea, beings from elsewhere helping us out.
Exactly. Kushi saw these as evidence of a shared human experience, something connecting us to, well, something beyond our current grasp. So we've got these ancient texts, maybe hinting at extraterrestrial contact, but Kushi doesn't stop there. He takes us to this modern mystery, the Wyoming medicine wheel.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. It's like a giant stone circle, right? Kind of like Stonehenge?
Exactly. And just like Stonehenge, the Wyoming medicine wheel has these astronomical alignments, making people think it was an ancient observatory of some sort.
Which then makes you wonder, how did ancient people manage that? I mean, creating such complex structures, aligning them so precisely with the stars, they didn't have telescopes and computers, did they?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And Kushi proposes this idea, what if it's all part of a bigger plan? This network of ancient sites all over the globe with a meaning we haven't quite grasped yet.
A global plan. Now you've got me hooked. What kind of plan are we talking about here?
Well, he draws this parallel between the Wyoming medicine wheel, the Great Pyramid in Egypt, even suggests there might be an even bigger pyramid hidden away in Western China.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. A pyramid bigger than the Great Pyramid.
It's a theory, right? But his idea was that these structures, maybe others like them, were all built as part of this interconnected network. Maybe a system of energy points across the planet, something like that.
Okay, now we're getting into some pretty out there territory. A global network of pyramids and stone circles channeling energy. My head's spinning a little.
It is a lot to take in. But remember, Kushi wasn't always saying these were hard facts. He was big on asking questions, exploring every possibility, challenging what we think we know. He wanted to stretch our understanding,
So, kind of like he's inviting us to consider these ideas, even if they sound a little, well, out there at first.
Exactly. And honestly, that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're in this realm of speculation, playing with ideas that might seem far-fetched, but they also have this strange appeal. After all, isn't it exciting to think there might be more to the universe than we currently understand?
Absolutely. Speaking of things that might be more than meets the eye, let's talk UFOs. Kushi seems pretty convinced they're real, even claiming there have been sightings throughout history.
He was all in on UFOs. He mentioned sightings as far back as 329 BC, tons of reports from the 1500s, the 1800s, even a story about the future King George V of England supposedly seeing a flying ship off the coast of Australia.
Wow, UFO sightings going back centuries. Talk about a lot of unexplained phenomena.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? And while Kushi acknowledged that some sightings could be explained away as misidentifications, hoaxes, he truly believed that many remained genuine mysteries.
Of course, you can't talk UFOs without mentioning Kenneth Arnold's famous encounter back in '47.
Right. Arnold, a pilot, described seeing these 9 disc-shaped objects flying crazy fast near Mount Rainier in Washington.
And that's where we got the term flying saucers, right?
Exactly, from his description of them moving like saucers skipping on water.
It's amazing how that event captured everyone's imagination, sparked this whole fascination with UFOs and aliens that's still going strong today.
It definitely got people thinking. And that interest just kept growing, with all these sightings and encounters reported. Kushi, though, was particularly drawn to the work of J. Allen Hynek.
Hynek. That name rings a bell. Remind me.
He was an astronomer, actually. Started off skeptical of UFOs, even worked with the U.S. Air Force to debunk sightings.
Debunk them. So he was a skeptic turned believer.
You could say that. After looking into hundreds of cases, he realized that a lot of them just couldn't be explained away. He ended up creating a whole classification system for close encounters with UFOs.
A classification system, like how close you got to the UFO.
Exactly, ranging from just seeing something in the distance to actually interacting with alien beings. And it's interesting, that system is still used by UFO researchers today.
Really? So it's like his work legitimized the whole field in a way.
It definitely lent some credibility to it, and it shows this growing acceptance that UFOs are a real phenomenon, something we can't just explain away.
Okay, so we've got ancient texts, mysterious stone circles, and now UFOs. How does Kushi tie all of this together? He must have some grand theory, right?
He did. That's where his concept of the spiral model of the solar system comes in. Imagine, he compared the planets to electrons orbiting the sun. And comets, he saw them as like negatively charged particles.
Okay, now you're going to have to break that down for me. I'm picturing those diagrams from high school science class with the electrons zipping around the nucleus of an atom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like electrons don't just orbit in a flat circle, but in a more three-dimensional way, Kushi thought maybe the planets don't just orbit the sun on a flat plane either. Maybe it's more of a spiral.
A spiral solar system. That's a pretty wild idea.
Uh-huh.
But what does that have to do with UFOs?
Well, here's where Kushi takes another leap. He proposes that maybe there's another spiral radiating outwards, existing alongside our own.
Wait, another spiral. Are we talking about a parallel universe here?
You got it, a parallel world, another dimension. Kushi's idea was that this other spiral could be home to beings who travel to our dimension in what we see as UFOs.
Okay, now that is a mind-blowing concept. So UFOs are actually interdimensional travelers, zipping back and forth between our reality and this other spiral dimension.
That's one way to interpret Kushi's theory. He was suggesting that our reality, what we can see and measure, might not be all there is. Maybe there are other dimensions out there coexisting with our own.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, but also incredibly intriguing. It makes you wonder what else might be out there, hidden in dimensions we can't even perceive.
Exactly, and that's what Kushi was so good at, making us question our assumptions, opening our minds to the possibility that the universe is far stranger and more amazing than we can even imagine. But Kushi's exploration doesn't stop at ancient mysteries and UFOs. He goes even deeper, diving into the world of energy medicine and what he called modern alchemy.
Okay, see, now this is where things get really interesting for me. Energy medicine, alchemy, these concepts have always fascinated me. What's Kushi's take on all of this?
He starts with this idea of ki, this universal energy. He believed it was the very essence of everything in the universe, even us.
Ki, like the life force they talk about in martial arts.
You got it. But Kushi took it beyond the traditional view. He tried to find connections with modern science. He even compared atoms to mini solar systems, with electrons orbiting the nucleus just like planets around the sun.
So he's saying the same principles govern the very large and the very small.
Right.
That the universe is like a giant fractal, with patterns repeating at every level.
That was Kushi. Always searching for connections, for patterns that linked seemingly different parts of existence. He was convinced that if we could understand the rules governing one level of reality, we could unlock secrets at other levels too.
That's a really cool way to look at it. But how does this key connect to energy medicine? I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
Kushi's belief was that this key energy flows through us, through pathways he connected to the seven chakras.
Chakras. Okay, I've heard that word before, but to be honest, it's always seemed a little esoteric to me.
They're often described as wheels of energy, these points in the subtle body where energy is believed to flow. Kushi described them as places where heavens and earth's forces collide. He was suggesting this link between our own energy and the energy of the universe.
Wow, that's quite an image. So we're not just isolated beings, but part of this larger energetic system.
That was his belief, and he thought that if we could understand and balance our own energy system, we could tap into this universal energy and enhance our health and well-being.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about this modern alchemy you mentioned earlier? What did Kushi mean by that? Was he talking about turning lead into gold?
Not quite. Kushi believed that, just like alchemists aim to transform matter, we could transform ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. It was all about understanding and harnessing the power of energy and consciousness.
So it's more about personal transformation, about reaching our full potential.
Precisely. Kushi was convinced that we all have this incredible potential within us, this ability to reach a higher state of being, a state of harmony and balance with the natural order.
It's a beautiful idea, for sure. But how did he think we could achieve this transformation? Did he have specific recommendations?
He did. He believed that diet, lifestyle, spiritual practices, they were all critical. He was a big advocate for a balanced diet based on macrobiotic principles, naturally.
Yeah.
He also emphasized things like meditation, yoga, connecting with nature.
So it's about living in sync with our true nature, with the natural rhythms of the world around us.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that interconnectedness, that we're not separate from nature but a part of it. Kushi believed that by changing our consciousness, by understanding our place in this web of life, we could make a difference, not just in our own lives, but in the world around us.
I love that. It's a reminder that even small changes can have a ripple effect. But Kushi didn't just talk about esoteric concepts and spiritual practices. He also made some bold predictions about the future, didn't he?
He did. In fact, he outlined this whole timeline for the 21st century based on his understanding of ancient prophecies and modern scientific trends. He really tried to bring those two worlds together.
Okay, before we jump into his predictions, I'm curious, did any of Kushi's ideas about ki, chakras, or modern alchemy resonate with you personally?
I have to admit, I find his holistic view of health and well-being pretty appealing. It just makes sense to me that our physical, emotional, and spiritual states are all connected.
It's like he's saying we're not just machines, but these complex beings with all these interconnected systems.
Precisely. And I appreciate his willingness to explore the unconventional, to push the boundaries of what we think we know.
That's what I love about these deep dives. We get to explore those unconventional ideas, the ones we might not usually encounter. But let's get back to those predictions. What kind of future did Kushi envision for the 21st century? Give me the good, the bad, and the strange.
Well, he definitely didn't shy away from the challenges. He wrote about a modern health crisis with rising rates of chronic diseases, mental health issues, environmental problems. He saw those coming, even back then.
It's almost eerie how accurate he was about some things. Like he could see the path we were on, even back in 1992.
He was definitely ahead of his time in some ways. He was worried about the threat of nuclear war, the breakdown of families, the damage we're doing to the environment through industrial agriculture, all issues that are still very relevant today.
Sadly, yes. So, did he offer any solutions to these pretty dire problems? Or was he just predicting doom and gloom?
Oh no, Kushi was actually a very optimistic person. He truly believed that if we could embrace a more holistic worldview, one that recognizes our connection to each other and to the planet, we could create a much better future, a peaceful, just, sustainable future.
So he saw these crises, these challenges, as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. He thought that facing these problems head-on would force us to reevaluate, to change our priorities, to find new ways of being in the world, to find ways to live in greater harmony with ourselves and the planet.
I love that perspective. It's not about giving up, but about seeing the potential for positive change, even amidst the chaos. But did he get more specific? What did this future look like in his mind?
He did. In fact, he broke the 21st century down into these 6 distinct periods, each one with its own unique set of challenges and opportunities.
Okay, I am ready to hear about these 6 periods. Lay it on me. What did Kushi see happening in each one?
All right, so the first period, from 1982 to 2002, he saw that as a time when people were becoming more aware of health and ecology. He predicted a rise in natural foods and alternative medicine.
Well, he definitely got that right. The 90s were all about organic food, yoga studios, and a more holistic approach to well-being.
He was spot on about that. And he said this trend would continue into the second period from 2002 to 2022 with more eco-friendly farming and those holistic approaches to healthcare becoming more mainstream.
Which, again, seems pretty accurate. We've definitely seen a shift towards more sustainable living and a more holistic view of health in recent decades.
What about the third period? What did he predict for that?
This is where things get really interesting. He predicted a second industrial revolution powered by the discovery of something called atomic transmutation. And this was supposed to happen between 2022 and 2042.
Hold on, atomic transmutation. Is that like alchemy, turning lead into gold?
Well, not exactly. But Kushi thought we were on the verge of discovering how to change matter at a fundamental level. He thought this discovery would revolutionize our understanding of energy, leading to new, clean energy sources and changing our relationship with the material world completely. Wow, now that's some serious science fiction stuff. I'm not sure I'm buying it, but it's a fascinating thought experiment. What else did he predict for this third period?
He saw it as a time of amazing technological progress, but also a time of profound spiritual awakening. He thought that our scientific discoveries would lead us to a deeper understanding of how everything is connected, blurring the lines between science and spirituality.
A merging of science and spirituality. That's a pretty radical idea.
It is, and he thought that this new way of seeing the world would pave the way for even bigger changes in the fourth period, from 2042 to 2062.
Okay, you've got me on the edge of my seat. What happens in the fourth period?
Kushi predicted a massive shift in global consciousness during this time. He thought humanity would finally move past all the divisions of the past. The cultural differences, the religious conflicts, the nationalistic rivalries, all those things that have caused so much strife and suffering throughout history.
So he envisioned a more unified world, a global community.
Exactly. He truly believed we would get to a point where we see ourselves as citizens of Earth first and foremost, recognizing our shared humanity and our connection to all life on the planet.
That's a beautiful vision, but is it realistic? Can we really overcome centuries of ingrained division and conflict and create a truly unified world?
That's the big question, isn't it? Kushi seemed to think it was possible, but he acknowledged it wouldn't be easy. He believed it would require a fundamental shift in our way of thinking, a willingness to let go of old paradigms and embrace a new way of being in the world.
It sounds like a monumental task, for sure. But maybe, just maybe, it's not impossible.
Exactly. And Kushi's vision doesn't stop there. He believed this growing sense of global unity would lead to even more incredible advancements in the fifth period, from 2062 to 2082.
Okay, this is getting exciting. What did he see happening in the fifth period?
He believed space travel would become a reality during this time. No more just dreaming about it, humanity would finally be able to leave Earth and explore the cosmos.
Space travel. Wow, that really takes things to a whole new level. Did he say anything about what he thought we'd find out there?
He suggested that we would encounter other intelligent life forms out there in the vastness of space. He thought it would be another huge leap for humanity, expanding our consciousness even further and giving us a whole new understanding of our place in the universe.
It's mind-boggling to think about. So Kushi's vision wasn't just about fixing the problems here on Earth, but about reaching out into the cosmos and connecting with whatever else is out there.
Exactly. He saw space exploration as the next natural step for humanity, a way to satisfy our curiosity and to push the boundaries of what's possible. But there's one more period, remember, the sixth and final one in Kushi's timeline.
Right, the grand finale. What did he envision for the end of the 21st century?
In his view, from 2082 to 2102, humanity would reach a state of true unity and harmony. He predicted the emergence of a single, unified world government and a global family living in peace.
A unified world government by 2102. Wow, that's incredibly ambitious. To be honest, I have a hard time believing we can overcome all those deeply ingrained forces of division and conflict in such a short time frame. It seems like a really, really big ask.
I understand your skepticism. It's certainly a grand vision, and it faces a lot of challenges. But even if Kushi's timeline isn't spot on, I think his message is one of hope and possibility. It's a reminder that we have the potential to create a better future, no matter how difficult things may seem right now.
That's what I find so inspiring about Kushi's work. He wasn't afraid to dream big, to imagine a future where humanity could evolve beyond its limitations and create a world of peace, harmony, and spiritual fulfillment. Even if it's just a possibility, it's something worth striding for.
Absolutely. Whether his predictions come true or not, I think his ideas can serve as a powerful reminder of our potential as a species. He challenged us to look beyond the present moment and to ask ourselves, what kind of future do we want to create? And that's a question worth pondering, don't you think?
I don't know about you, but Kushi's vision of the future really takes us on a journey, huh? All those possibilities.
It's really something. The way he combines ancient ideas like energy and interconnectedness with modern science. I mean, he's talking UFOs and atomic transmutation, but then brings it back to those fundamental principles, balance, harmony.
It's almost like he's saying, hey, there's way more to reality than we realize, right? Maybe science hasn't quite caught up to explain all the strange things people experience, all the things we observe out there in the universe.
Yeah. And sure, maybe some of his predictions seem a little out there, but it's that core message, I think, that really matters, especially now. The idea that we're all connected, part of this web of life. Our actions matter. They have an impact on everything else.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can all agree on. Whether or not we believe in UFOs or a one-world government by 2102, like you suggested.
Exactly. It reminds us to take care of ourselves, each other, and the planet. Because ultimately, when we strive for that balance and harmony in our own lives, we contribute to a better future for everyone.
No doubt about it. That's a message that resonates deeply, especially now, wouldn't you say? But I'm curious, out of all Kushi's specific predictions, did any of them really stand out to you?
Well, the way he emphasized the importance of holistic health, sustainable living, I mean, we're seeing those trends everywhere today. And that whole idea about a second industrial revolution driven by new forms of energy, he might be onto something there, especially with how crucial clean, renewable energy is becoming.
It's pretty amazing, actually. Like, he had this foresight back in '92, tapping into these challenges, these opportunities that we're facing right now.
It makes you think, doesn't it? And while I might not necessarily agree with every single detail of his timeline, his predictions do offer a sense of hope. Like, we're not stuck on a predetermined path. We have the power to shape the future through our actions, through the choices we make every day.
That's a really empowering message. But as with most of our deep dives, we seem to end up with even more questions than answers.
Well, that's what makes it an exploration, right? It's not about having all the answers, but about opening our minds to new possibilities, embracing the unknown.
I like that. So as we resurface from this deep dive into other dimensions, what can we take back with us? What can we carry into our everyday lives?
Maybe it's a renewed sense of awe, just remembering how mysterious the universe really is, how much there still is to learn and explore. We've only scratched the surface.
Absolutely. Or perhaps it's a deeper understanding of how interconnected we all are. A reminder to live with intention, to be mindful of the impact of our actions.
Whatever speaks to you, right. The important thing is to never stop questioning, to stay curious, never stop exploring all those incredible possibilities that exist beyond what we think we know.
That's a perfect note to end on. It's time to close the book on this deep dive into other dimensions. But remember, the exploration never truly ends, does it? Keep asking those questions. Keep searching for those connections. Who knows what you might discover? Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.